Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast of the show this week. Darren's on time this week.
I was even nervous.
No,
Hey,
he's normally fashionably late, but he's patiently waiting, itching to get online today. So we're gonna have a really interesting show this week because actually I follow Paul and Spheric Reptiles very closely. I watch all his videos.
mhm.
And this actual podcast is also to show you guys who want to kind of get up and going with your own content. We're going to talk across the platform on different topics on how to get going, what you could do to kind of get it initiated and started. But also showing you guys that we're right there in there with you guys. We're going to be, good, firm supporters. We're going to engage, interact with you back and forth on everything that you kind of put out as well. What's going on, K and D? Speaking of them, this little one here, you're gonna want to go over to her Instagram. Definitely, Darren put her on the on the platform. You're gonna want to go over and follow her. How old is she, Darren?
Man, I think she's 10. I
She's
don't know.
10.
She has to put it in the comments. But
Yeah.
one of the things, even though Will doesn't like it, she likes lavender albino, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Hey, it's something out there for everybody. It's something out there for everybody. But y'all got to go over there and go follow K and D. Again, that's the newer generation coming in. We need to welcome them with open arms. Really, really quick. What's going on, Robert? Haven't seen you in a while. Definitely going to see you when we go out to Tinley. I'm not sure if you're going to make it down to Daytona. We will be in Daytona next weekend as well. We have, I was actually explaining to Paul, we have quite a few pickups. So if you're getting anything in, let us know. We'll bring them down, but we're vending pretty much just crested geckos, and we'll have crested geckos on pickup orders as well as ball pythons on pickup orders. But we're utilizing Flawless Exotic Creations behind the same business plan as Flawless Crested Geckos. What's going on, Ray? Whip, what's good? And
Hey, I haven't seen you in a while.
yeah, I haven't seen him in a
Yeah.
while. And Frank the Tank, what's going on? He's always first, always, chiming in, trying to see what's going on.
Mhm.
And our man Sammy,
Up
who we're
front,
definitely going to be
Sammy.
meeting up with down in Daytona as well. He wants to chop it up about the collections and direction of pies, Ultramel pies. And I'm anxious and excited to sit down and have that talk with him. But while we're still saying what's up to everybody, let's go on and bring in the man of the hour, Paul.
Hey,
What's
hey, hey, what's going on, guys?
man hanging in there?
Yeah,
Excited to have you on this week.
exactly. I'm excited too.
So briefly, for anybody who doesn't know your story, tell us how you found your way back in to the reptile community, because I know you were into the reptile community before.
Right. So originally, I was like everybody else. I really had parents who didn't want any animals whatsoever in the house. Right? Dogs, cats, fish, birds, you name it. They were like, we're not having it.
Right.
Being in Dallas, they just didn't want to fool with it. And I don't think we had the money at that time. So long story short, I go to college. I find reptiles again after I've been catching them as a kid and everything. But the reptiles I picked were not your usual reptiles. Back then, they were the Retex, the Burmese, yellow anacondas, and boa constrictors, stuff like that. Ball pythons, not so much, man. I mean, I just really didn't have them. I mean, they were too expensive for the ones that I wanted back then. And it was easier for me to go to a local reptile expo and get a reticulated python. And like I said, my first ones, they were a little bit bigger than what I anticipated. I kept them in the closet. But, after college, I was able to sell off all of those because once I got out of college, then I had different roommates, like when I first got out. And my cousin at the time was like, man, I don't mess with snakes. So I was like, well, I really need a roommate. So I kind of had to, you know, find a middle ground, which was sell the snakes, which luckily I did find buyers. Two marriages later, now I'm with a great woman, and shit happens, right? And I got back into ball pythons. It was really her fault. I always would blame her. She's sitting right behind the camera, right? And she got a bearded dragon. So I was like, well, if you're gonna get a bearded dragon,
Oh yeah.
Let me get a snake. So I got a lesser bongo, and they kind of,
Okay.
and
That
yeah,
was a
I
setup.
saw.
That was a setup
Yeah,
right there. You
it was a
said you get
setup.
one
It was
reptile, I get my reptile.
Nicely
right
played.
now. I got a whole bunch of them. Yeah.
So
Oh,
So that's
how
how
old
we
are you
do it.
now?
I'm 50. Yeah, I'm a
50?
lot
Oh,
older than
okay,
I
okay.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
you
I
don't look
kept.
50, so you're good.
Well,
no,
I appreciate it. I
definitely.
was talking to Bob Clark.
Oh,
Bob Clark and some other guys. I remember VPI when they were doing shows at the time. I don't know if they do shows anymore, but I remember telling him, and he remembered me from one of their original Arlington expos, which was
Okay.
held at the Knights of Columbus. And I said, man, I bought one of my first snakes from you, and that was over 25 years ago, 30
Right.
years ago. So it's really crazy when I think about the amount of time and how many different people have came into the industry.
Wow. 25, 30 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lots
that's
changed.
definitely a long time. You know, it's funny you had that story because when both Darren and I had pretty much a similar situation. You know, we couldn't have reptiles growing up the same scenario.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's more prevalent in the Black community growing up
Oh,
for whatever reason. It's always just
without a
frowned.
doubt.
You're not able to kind of spread your wings and at least get that first time experience. We're more apt to get into maybe a dog or a cat before reptiles.
yeah.
So it kind of sucks, but we
Yeah.
tried to change that a little bit. We got all our kids involved in one way or another, holding the snakes, caring for the snakes. Only thing they're not really doing is feeding because we feed live.
Right.
But it's very interesting to talk to everybody from different walks of life, and it's always the same story. You
Yeah,
couldn't
it
keep them
really
when
is.
you were younger. You couldn't have them when you were younger. But it's interesting because that's a good spinoff on where I want to take the direction of this show, this specific show, because you said 25, close to 30 years ago, you bought,
Right.
your first snake from a reptile expo. How would you, I guess, summarize the difference between 25, 30 years ago, acquiring maybe your first snake or a snake period or a reptile period at that time, the accessibility of animals versus now in the present day?
Well, I definitely would say that it's easier. It's so much easier today to get a reptile because you can just go on Morph Market or online, or they're sold at Petco, PetSmart, those places. Before they were still sold at those places, but if you wanted information, you really couldn't get the information. And I think that's the key, is like knowledge is power. So I had to
Exactly.
go to a reptile expo, and unlike now, you had one person selling or maybe a couple of people selling. So whatever they said, that would go. So right or wrong, that's what you would do. And so in the beginning, I had a lot of bad habits, but because I was also working on, a science degree, I would go and kick it to my professors like, hey, I got this snake. And then I would pull it out the backpack, and they would say, wait, hold on. But they would give me some really knowledgeable things. And so I had to check with the San Antonio Zoo for a lot
Hmm.
of these things. And I would even call the Dallas Zoo, which is crazy that I would have to go so far. But this is pre Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I mean, I had my library, and I mean, it's crazy to sound, but I still had an encyclopedia set at my parents, but I really couldn't get information like that. It just wasn't out there.
That's crazy. Actually, I had a quick chat. I called the guy. He was messaging on Instagram. Not going to throw his name out. I'm not sure if he want to be, put out there on blast. But it was a really good conversation. He was talking about growing his collection, starting as a breeder, but he wanted to level up and work with some serious combinations. And I'm like, there's no reason to really be afraid other than your wallet, because these things are very expensive. But I was
Yeah.
explaining to him like the biosecurity measures. Um, we being that everyone in our home are in and out of the actual facility that we have. I mean, they can go down, they can look at whatever snake they want, pull snakes out, geckos, everything one and the same. But as far as them bringing friends over or people, that's not allowed. You have to have some type of measures where you can actually have some control over what's going on. But again, we haven't reached, a Canova status or Ozzy, but Ozzy's the same way. You know, Ozzy doesn't have an open door where, you know, you can just go up there and just go in his collection, because it's the same basis. You're exposing everything in your collection at that specific point to whatever. So we kind of have to put something in place where you're not able to do that. And I was explaining that to him because he had bought like a DG clown, and you know he would, and which is perfectly fine. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. But if you're asking for advice, we have to be straightforward, straight shooters. You know, I'm not gonna put a DG clown, you know, or any snake around my neck and go to the post office or walk around the mall. That's not what we're going to be doing. So it was some things in the part of our standards that you have to put in place to make sure that you're going to provide safe and secure measures for your animals and their well-being. What's some of your standards that you pretty much go by, maybe on a weekly or monthly basis?
Well, of course, we made an operations manual for actually caring for our snakes, because I like streamlining everything. It's a 12-page document. And I basically set up the video camera, and I would video over time. And then whatever worked best, I would use that and compare it to y'all's videos and everybody else's in the community. And I would say, well, this is the best thing, not necessarily what I like to do, but what's best. And then I would start incorporating. Now, as far as people coming over to the house, I'm in one of those families to where people just don't like snakes. Like, even though I love them, no one else in my family. My mom is like, the snakes are great. She just came over to the house last weekend for the very first time to see a snake since I was bringing them home. And then she was like, wherever you go to work, you take your snakes. But as far as
take the snakes, how many you gonna take with you?
Man, I used to have to take 3 snakes. And that's why I learned the backpack is the best thing. You can put a lock on those backpacks. So I would take my snakes to work, fry them in. I mean, this is back in the day, you know. So a constrictor and 2 ball pythons was what I took most of the time. The retics, I would end up locking them up in my apartment, you know, because I was normally just going for the weekend. But as far as what we do, I'm OCD about the snakes. So with our bioactive enclosure, so we got a bearded dragon and a boa constrictor that I'm not sure that we're going to breed, but I can take care of them in those environments better. But as far as our ball pythons, I'm so OCD that I got stages of taking care of them right. So I got the chlorhexidine solution to start off with. Then I have F10 if things need to be really deep cleaned. And then any type of defecation, urates inside of the enclosure, I totally break it down. And I mean, because the number one thing that I did deal with back then was like mouth rot, respiratory infections, because I just didn't have the information. But now that I know, I'm really particular about who touches the snakes, how you touch the snakes, how you approach the snakes when you're feeding, when you're changing water. I mean, I'm not saying talking to them, but even talking to them so they can feel those vibrations. I know they can't hear it, but you know, I still feel like
you talk to them all day.
yeah. I mean, and you know, it's funny you say that because when I watch your channel, I'm always thinking, man, they're talking to the snakes. They're cursing the snakes out just like I am. Hey, eat this food. I just cleaned your cage and you done pooped already, you know. So
oh my gosh,
that's guaranteed. Like as soon as you feed, you clean, and then you feed, it's a done deal. Boom. That's why I came down with the conclusion: I feed and then clean because you're gonna mess it up. It doesn't matter. It's like, hey man, you know, you gave me a new spot, fed me, I'm good. It's nice in here. Now let me give it my natural flavor.
And those snake farts are horrible. Oh my gosh.
Look, I never heard that before. I never heard that before, but see, I don't know if you know the space. So in our condo, we have our dining room, right? So we moved all the furniture out of our dining room and moved the snakes in there, which makes it easier to get to the sink and to the living room. But at the same time, when you're sitting there watching a movie and one you hear it popping off and squirting out, I'm just like, I don't know if they hurting. And I never go straight over to see what's up because I want to get finished.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my God.
It's definitely crazy. But I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one that hear that and be like, hey, what's up?
Do you quarantine your animals too?
What'd you say?
Do you quarantine your animals too?
I do. I quarantine my animals for a minimum of 4 weeks. So what we do is we get them in, we do the video, and then immediately after that, we run them through a soaking. Then we treat them with the reptile spray, and we quarantine them. And then we check on them for 2 weeks. We don't try to feed them. There's no water in there for 1 week. Then we put the water in, and then I'm just watching. I'm measuring temperatures. I'm measuring them. I'm just seeing their behaviors. Are they healthy? Are they still, it's a lot of things. And then if they have anything that sets them back, it's like go back to zero. Re-soak. I don't retreat them for mites, but it's re-soak and then start back over. So yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Now,
because and that's
what is your reasoning for waiting on feeding them for 2 weeks before you get when you get them? You wait 2
because
weeks.
I want to look at their, I mean, this sounds crazy, but this is from a scientific standpoint. I want to look at their stool. And so kind of
Mhm.
get a fecal analysis to look at it and see if there's any worms crawling out of it to just to get a general overview of the health, because I know that ball pythons in the wild only eat like 8 to 10 times a year, right? That's a good year. So because I know that they're not eating that often, if I get the snake and I weigh it in the beginning and I can actually measure that how fast they lose weight, and that'll let me know the health of the animal. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of this comes from dogs, right? So the same thing that I would do with a dog before I really try to introduce it to the other animals, even though we don't have dogs now, I would do with the snakes. And man, I just feel like the risk is so much higher, right? So if we have a snake and I just get the snake and I just throw it in the collection, and if it's sick with anything, now I got 4 or 5 or my whole collection sick. Now
Yeah,
that's going to cost me a lot more money. So
Mhm.
definitely.
Now, do you
I
feel
mean,
30 days is long enough?
I don't feel 30 days is long enough, but for the initial inspection, I think a lot of the things that I'll see will show up. Now, if there's anything in question, then I'll send off for a sample.
Mhm.
I'll get it tested. So, I mean, that's the easiest thing. And I got that idea from Matt with American Made Exotics and Matt
Mhm.
Ship. And so I was like, hey, that's because I hate guessing. Like for when it comes to sexing ball pythons, I was just like, I can do this, or I know how to probe, so I just probe. So that's why a lot of our juvenile snakes or our newborn snakes, I'll wait a month before I probe,
Mhm.
which it might seem like a long time, but they gotta eat anyway. Right?
Right.
Yep.
So
Hey, if you're not in a rush to move them, I mean, you still got to feed them and still have to take a meal. So, I mean,
yeah,
I sometimes it depends on the clutch. If it's a clutch,
Mhm.
I know I need a male, I know I need a female, I check. But otherwise than that, I just let them go.
Me, I'm not
Feed
see, and
them.
the
that's one thing that I wanted to hear.
pro, definitely all day. That's what I would do. Pro. I'm
Yeah,
horrible at
the
popping.
probe,
Uh,
yeah, it's just the probe is just so easy. If it goes deep, it's a male. If it goes short, it's a female. And I mean, it's not like it's a complicated matter. And the probe kits are so good. And I mean, the knowledge about probing is more than the knowledge about husbandry, right? So
right.
I just would
Yeah.
rather take that do that.
Yeah, that's definitely a learning process. We in all of our pickups and unboxing and playlists, I think we only received one snake that was sold to us as a female, and it ended up being a male. And we
Mhm.
literally, I mean, we probably had the snake maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5 months before we found out that it was a male. We did videos on it. We handled it pretty well. The seller kind of didn't initially, and then they came through and they remedied the best way that they could at the time. You're never gonna, it's never gonna be a perfect world, and
Yeah,
we understand that, but that was one of those things when it comes to gender on these snakes. That's from what I've heard time and time again. That's one of those things that you're not supposed to make a mistake on, which
right.
is why a lot of breeders make it right, or any way that they can fix that problem and get in front of it, they will. Um, you could just imagine, spending thousands and thousands or hundreds of dollars for a snake that
Yeah.
you need for a project, and it ends up being the wrong gender, because the first pushback was, oh, well, you had it for months. And I'm like, oh, okay. At that time, I'm like, we're new. We bought from an experienced breeder who told me
Exactly.
what you were selling me.
What you
So,
say?
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
how
Sold
do you
me
really
two left shoes.
exactly. So it's interesting. how to go about it. And we also learn from going through that because nobody's, perfect, where it's like, okay, if we're faced with a situation, we know how not to handle it,
Exactly.
and you try to provide any situation with, you handle it with kid gloves and do the best you can. But that's, I think, business 101, customer service. I mean, customer service. Don't, give somebody or put something onto someone that was nowhere near what they were expecting.
Right.
It's just simple.
I think it's really simple because, I mean, what do we, it's like I always ask, whenever Lynn and I are talking, what are we trying to do? What are we doing? Are we breeding snakes for us? Whenever we go to sell, we got to realize these people don't have to buy our snakes. Not from us. They could do whatever they want to do. So whatever we can do to make it right, it works. It works.
Plus, it's your name and your brand. I mean,
Exactly.
People talk. They may not say it on Front Street, but they all talk amongst each other, especially when you start getting to these groups and these people that are really actually breeding. They talk about their experience and who they had experience with. It comes out sooner or later.
Right. And I think you also, as a buyers, you don't want to be too quick to kind of jump the gun. You still gotta, be professional. As professional as they allow you to be. Because in that situation, basically, they were like tough, figure it out. And I'm like, wow. Oh, okay, cool. And that was it.
Yeah,
I'm like, cool. So I went. It wasn't horrible. I could tell you verbatim almost what I said. Hey, I purchased on their review on their Facebook. I purchased such and such. They sold it to me as this. It arrived and it is this. Wasn't nothing nasty, flagrant, nothing at all. And it was just a negative review, and left it at that. And I was done. My phone started ringing that night. Hey, can you delete this? Oh, now you're going to tend to the issue. They fixed it.
Right.
And that was that, and you handle it. Again, do the best you can to remedy it before it gets that far. But I understand people enough, and me and Darren talk all the time. You can't make anybody do anything. So it's either they're going to eat it under their business name, or they'll remedy the problem.
I would eat it. Like me personally, I would eat it because I feel like the whole reason why I got into this was to make a snake that was really cool. But in the process, in starting a business, was to help finance offset some of this cost, right? Because inevitably, if you're a hobbyist or a business owner, you're trying to produce a product. And whatever that product is, it takes time and money to produce it. So I would eat that cost. I mean, me personally, because what better way to show better customer service? Like Amazon. If Amazon delivers you a package and you don't get it, then Amazon, even if you get it a day later, they will refund you your money. So I feel like if they can do it, then we can do it. But a lot of people, they just don't feel that way.
Right.
But when that happened with you, I remember that was like earlier this year, right? I think earlier this year, I remember you talking about it. But the thing that, Lynn and I, we watch all the videos, right? All the podcasts together a lot of times when we're going to sleep, So I remember you staying positive. I mean, and that's the thing that I really liked was the way that you stayed positive. And so, because I don't know if I would have been that positive, I did buy something from a breeder that I just will not name. I just won't support.
Right.
But I remember it came down to where I said, hey, I want to buy 2 snakes from you. It's such a great price. And then he came back and said, well, the one is not available. I was like, well, it's still up, So this snake has been up for over a month. And then he said, well, do you want to buy the other snake? I said, well, yeah, just give me the one. And we negotiated the price. And it was supposed to be a female. And then I told him, I said, make sure it's a female.
Oh, man.
And man, I'm telling you, he called me on the phone and was like, look, this snake, I just found out. I probed it, and it's a male. And he said, you want it? I was like, no, I do not want it. And so he refunded the money. And I told him, no bad feelings, but you got these snakes on your site as female and like they're available. And if they're not available or whatever, hey, do something.
Right.
Put them on hold or something. Or take them down.
Put them on hold or take them down until you can figure out what you're going to do. And if it's not available, just don't pump your page up with animals that aren't available just to make it look like you have a lot of animals. So.
Right.
Or get the views because people go to what projects are popular. So then you get to choose, and then you want the animal, and it's like, oh well, that's not for sale, but I just want to see if you're gonna look at my page.
Yeah, she said
Thank
those
you for the
Retex
inquiry.
guys. I mean,
oh man, I can only imagine. Oh man.
I watch her podcast too, Lady T's Exotics.
Yes,
I watch it
Lady
at work.
Tiz, Nicole.
Yeah.
And she's
7 o'clock, I put it on. Like tomorrow, I'll put it on. It's pretty good. It's entertaining.
I mean, come on, Retex. I know ball pythons. Retex gotta be loud. Like that gotta be boom, 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 shaking the cake and everything. Like, come on.
I mean, the Retex are, if they were smaller, I would keep them. Like, if you could guarantee me that they would get above 10 feet, I would.
A dwarf.
I mean, they say a dwarf, but the way that I feed, I know that animal would still end up at 10 feet. You know, I mean, because if it look hungry, if it's searching around, it must be hungry. I don't want to take a chance. So.
Nicole is awesome too. Nicole, she gets in there and inside the enclosures with them.
She's running all around her body.
Oh yeah. I love what she's doing. She's doing. Going down to her neck of the woods. So probably see her down in Daytona.
No, and most of those snakes are longer than she is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in Daytona, man. I really am, because we were thinking about it. So Tinley, Pomona, or Daytona, and I said, well, it's still the summertime, so I would rather go to Daytona and meet a lot more of the people that are on social media, and then go to Tinley, probably I think in October or something like that, or in February, or whenever the next one. Yeah.
So the spinoff as well. Being that you've been doing the videos for, I believe it's a little over a year now. Am I correct?
Right. Yes, sir.
What has changed for you? Has it gotten easier? To me, your comfort, I kind of compare it to myself. You always seem comfortable. So I don't know if there's a comfort level for you that's increased. But what's some of the hardest things that you're challenged by doing all your videos here on YouTube, and what's some of the easiest?
Well, the hardest thing is having the time to do the videos, right? So before I was, I'm in the survey, like construction survey industry. So before I worked 5 minutes away from the house, so I could get off at 3 o'clock and be home and write out the videos, and then shoot the videos, shoot 2 a day, and just fill up the whole month in like maybe 2 or 3 days, right?
Wow.
But now I work all the way on the other. So we live on the east side of Dallas, and then I work all the way in Fort Worth. So that's at least a 45-minute to an hour drive in the morning. In the afternoon, that's a 2-hour drive. So by the time I make it home, after getting off at 6, it's ridiculous, man. I mean,
wow.
And so at 8 o'clock, I'm whipped from work and I'm whipped from the drive. So that's the hardest part. But the social media it's opened some doors, because I got into this because my mother, she's a YouTube, like she had a channel, a lifestyle channel, cooking and doing all this stuff. I mean, I was like, it's great. I mean, I really do like her channel whenever she makes videos. But she was teaching as well. And so when she started getting into teaching, I saw how it impacted her videos. She just couldn't do it. And she's older. So the one thing that I haven't, so the whole reason why we started the channel was not to get monetized or anything else, even though that would be great. But I told her, and I tell everybody, I really don't care. I mean, I don't care. I just want for people to have a platform where they can go and get some information about their ball pythons. And if they like it, they like it. If they subscribe, they subscribe. I'm going to make the videos anyway, because I remember being that person that was looking for information, and I had to call zoos. I mean, it's crazy. I had to talk to professors, but I always think, what if I didn't have access to those people? Then I would have just been stuck, and my animal would have died, and I would have been at snakes again.
That's interesting, definitely. We started the channel really because we're doing well with flawless crested geckos, and we kind of even started that channel super late. But we kind of wanted to tell the whole story on what we're even doing, what some of our goals, and periodically letting everybody know, hey, we're still breathing, we're still doing all right, we're still rocking and rolling, and put out that type of content for people. So when we spun off, we already knew that as far as YouTube, the snake channel was going to supersede the gecko channel. It's funny because we had those conversations, Audrey and myself, about geckos versus ball pythons. And from us going to all these shows and everything on the East Coast, going out to Vegas and things like that, and having a healthy customer base internationally, we're just like, this is insane for us to be doing this well with the crested geckos. But when we go to the shows, every show, like, we're literally educating everybody that walk by the table. Let alone trying to inform them who we are. We're just pretty much educating them on what crested geckos are. But every show you go to, everybody knows, they may not know whether it's a ball python or a retic, but they know it's a snake. And for the most part, they're, 99% of the time, everybody's going to the reptile show, but it's the snake show. And a lot of the promoters are trying to change that. Wrong, right, and different is going to have blowback on everyone, because you're going to end up, if you're having too many ball python guys, like I think Tinley is going through that now, where they're changing the way that you register for the shows. And that being said, they're kind of, I want to say, sifting through a lot of the ball python breeders and trying to get different animal species into those shows. But obviously somebody's going to have their feelings hurt if they can't continue to vend. So you're not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah, we're even having that problem with our local shows.
Our
local shows. So it's either ball pythons or crested geckos. So, a lot of crested geckos are getting weeded out too.
And it's the craziest thing, because in the industry as a whole, I will go as far as to say, crested geckos to ball pythons, keepers as well as breeders, you're talking about like 1 to 1,000. That's the ratio. That's how much bigger the ball python industry is versus the crested gecko industry. And I just think it's more so because people never really took crested geckos as a serious business. They never really saw that. And it's crazy because they've been around just as long as the ball python. And when they got here, those were the animals to really go after when they first got imported. Because I
feel crested geckos are easier to breed than ball pythons.
Absolutely. But even then, they still had, triple hets, penta hets. You're looking at this, melting pot of geckos here with all these genes mixed up, and then people started, breeding for specifics and ironing things out, and figuring it out. So now it's like, how wild caught, animals now. Yes, you get them and you're kind of chasing a certain path. You want to, have that new next gene. But for me, and it's just an opinion, with the crested geckos, for us, we kind of steer clear of what they will call wild caught or F1s, because that means that basically we're going to have to, work with that animal for the next 5-7 years just to figure out that there's nothing there. Exactly. On top of that, a wild caught, you can improve their structure, head structure. It's so much with that you're going to be now putting into your collection and reproducing. Exactly. And if you're not keeping it, now where's that animal going? To a customer. So it's like, for us, we don't really deal with it too much.
I can see why somebody would go back. Only reason why is because crested geckos are so compact with genes. You turn around and take that F1 and you breed it to that one with a bunch of genes. Now you can see, okay, we got a little bit more. That's the only reason why I would think that you could see more incomplete dominance.
Now, only thing I would combat that, the timing is off. So if this was 10 years, 15 years prior, yes, 1,000%. But you got to understand that, they took all them genes and they even just put male and female together for years. They didn't worry about it. They just were producing whatever. And then you finally started getting, not just ourselves, but breeders like ourselves that says, hey, I want hot white. I want to work these reds. And now, you're putting geckos that are similar with things that you're chasing and breaking it down, going down this lane. So when you get this awesome looking gecko and now you're going to put it with an F1 and break up all the work you did. So that's why.
Unless there's a genetic test available, it would be hard to do that. But, that's the beauty too of this industry. Like if with dogs, you're going down, it's a narrowing path. And any people that breed cats, it's a narrowing path. You can't really get birds enough to breed them anyway. So But as far as the shows go, like with NARBC in particular, so I always do numbers don't lie. I mean, the numbers just don't lie, no matter what you do. And ball pythons, it's a reason why they are the lion's share of the market. It's not because they're a trash pet and they're just inexpensive, because a lot of the times in the beginning, they were just as expensive or more expensive than those Retex or Burmese. But it's the color variation that people like. And so, I mean, so if they get rid of all the ball python breeders, the whole market would come down, so to speak, unless you can find Amazon type species to come in and take over. Now, if monitored lizards were easier to care for, I'm pretty sure they'd have a larger Retex, So it's when I go
that
to
plays
shows,
a big factor is how easy they're to take care of them. That plays a
right.
big factor. Then you have
And
multiple colors, so you don't have to do so much for them.
Exactly. There's a lot of reptile breeders that come down on ball python breeders. And then whenever I meet, because when I meet them in person, I go straight up to them like, hey, bro, what's the issue? Are you upset that you have a show, that when you're at a show, you're the only one with whatever rat snake or whatever king snake, or if you have a Boylan's python, carpet python, be happy that you're in the minority.
Right.
But the people wouldn't be coming to the shows. They wouldn't be having the shows if there weren't ball python, crested geckos, bearded dragon people. I mean, because if 80% or 90% of the vendors that are there are there and they're there year after year, they must be making enough money to still have this place at the show. So let's just be appreciative. And if you have another species, you can get in line, and I'm pretty sure you can get a table. I mean, I don't know. That's how I see it.
I think that you have this. I think that's accurate. It's along the actually conversation Darren and I have had. You're gonna keep hearing that over. We talk all the time, but
well, in those podcasts, I hear a lot too. So
talking about these projects, it's just an opinion. I think people, I did the video on flip flopping, and it wasn't coming directly at anyone. I just want to get people thinking. If you're approaching it as I want to be a breeder, you don't need to make a ton of money or anything, but you want to be a breeder. What's your goal? All right. Is your goal to be kind of in the enthusiast area where you're really, really, truly having fun? You're watching Justin make a Pompeii and you look at your collection like, man, that's a cool snake. And you're like, I can get there in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I can get there. That's cool. But I think as a breeder, trying to take whatever genes you're working with to whatever the next level, you may see something that may inspire you and say, I see that. How would it look with Orange Dream in the mix or whatever your passion is, your gene, and you want to kind of throw it into the loop. Now you're trying to still create something that maybe is still untapped, but it's still not, let's say, horribly just expensive. You're just being a little creative. And I think that's what we lack as a whole. I think we tend to see things even at a breeder status of, making monetary value, making snakes that's wanted by the public, but you see something and now I want to replicate that exactly how that is. But once you make it in the next 4 or 5 years, it's the Batman story. Same thing with the Batman. Right. Amazing animal, but once you make it, and I'm not saying that it's obsolete, because you have to also topic raise your bottom ceiling. You got to raise your basement.
The problem with making a Batman is once you add more genes into it, it still looks like a Batman.
Yeah, still looks like a
more
Batman.
genes into it.
That's what we have, So our second collection was from a Batman to a head clown. And once I made him, I was like, well, we'll never do that pairing again. I see. I mean, because the whole thing that I was looking for is, all right, so I wanted a leopard head clown. I wanted a leopard clown. So we got that. I wanted a spot nose clown. So I didn't have to buy them. I wanted to create them because I knew I had the male and the female. And once we made it, I remember looking at Lynn and said, hey, we're done with that. That'll never happen again. And we're going to keep our male because he's a super male. And I'm just like, well, it has like we got another Batman, but if it's a male, when we sex it on Wednesday, I'm selling it. I'm selling it because our thing is, and it's funny you mentioned Justin because Justin and Ozzy are what actually drove me. When I saw their snakes on social media, back when Ozzy was still doing the Millionaire Snakes video
Absolutely.
series, so which was it was impelling. So um compelling. So um man, I was like, these guys what they're making, but I started looking at their racks. So I started thinking, all right, so if he's talking about it, he has like 10 stacks of breeder females on there that he's
Mhm.
pairing. So he's creating a market for himself, which is a hell of a marketing strategy. I do not blame him. But so what I do is I go around and when I'm videoing to see what people got, and I want to steer as far away from what most people have
Mhm.
as I can, and still make what we want to make. So, and that dictates 100% of our choices. I end up making all of the choices about which snakes we get. Lynn just okays the price. She was like, yeah, so is how much are we going to get it for? Can you negotiate it? And if I say yes, he just says thumbs up or no, I think we should wait. And I kind of know. So I'm like, all right, but I like what y'all produce in the fact that it's different, and I think that's the thing that a lot of breeders should do, especially during this recession time or semi-recession or whatever, is
Right.
pick their projects and really push their projects. But you know, it's a lot of
So
different ways you can
what
do that.
projects are you really in? Some of the bigger
So
projects that you're really working with. Recessive and complete
so
dominant. Yeah.
So the way I approach it is I approach everything like a science experiment. Right? So
Mhm.
what we really focus on is getting incomplete dominant females, right? So I want all of the as many different types of incomplete dominant females as we can get. Like so we have the variety, and then I buy double recessive visual males.
Mhm.
So with that, I can make head. So even if I have a head female like that head clown to the Batman, and I said it never will happen again, I would take a chance on pairing that hypo head desert ghost female with our TSK exotic hypo male and just seeing what we get, or with our clown pod male and seeing what we
Right.
get. Because I know that I can put her to a vanilla hypo. I know we got orange dream, black pastel, blackhead. We got like 20 different traits for incomplete dominant that we can always pair so that at any point, if I say I just got to have this, I can stack up 10 females and get what I want from 2 males and then just move that forward. But yeah, in particular, we're working the lavender albino pod, so the Dream Circle
Yeah, that's
project,
true.
we're working the Desert Ghost hypo, clown pod, looking over here. And we also have that TSK exotic hypo male.
True
And then we
Bells.
also have the tri-stripe albino
Oh shoot.
featherhead male that we got from And you know what? I was going to do an unboxing, but when we got him, as soon as he got out of quarantine, we kind of changed our rat breeder. Like a pet store came back, and so that he ended up eating a rat that ended up giving him some parasites. So we've been quarantining him for now.
Oh,
So.
that sucks.
Yeah, but I mean, he just shed, so I'm like, hey, he's doing good. He's drinking water. He's not losing a lot of weight, but it's just one of those things that I think a lot of people, when they keep these reptiles, they don't even think about what happens if my animal gets sick or it gets a bad rat because they're out there. I mean, you
Mhm.
could buy a bad rodent, especially if you feed live, and it could go south for you. And I just noticed he had running stool, and I'm like, that's not normal, so I quarantined him and did a fecal sample, and then now we treated him with fenbendazole. And we went through 3 weeks of that, and now he's just now starting to have solid poop and a good shed. So, but that's another project that I really want to work is that tri-stripe albino.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
Wow. So
Yeah,
your rodents, you're not breeding your rodents, you're purchasing.
nah. Well,
Okay.
because of where we are, like, so we're waiting on the election like everybody else. So I mean, we could get a house now, like because that's our
Right.
thing, So because we have only been together, how long, babe? About 4 years.
Hey, you're supposed to know
She
that.
said 5 years. So I need to get out. Yeah, I need to get off get on the horse, man. It's time.
Hey,
So,
I,
um,
I, I sense some flowers coming over.
hey, man, you know, a house. That's what she wants.
I-
She's like a house. And the
Right.
crazy
Is
thing is
is that
like
for anniversary? Is that going to be an anniversary present?
Ooh.
maybe for anniversary. Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah, but
in
when's
February.
the
So yeah,
anniversary?
February the 24th, right?
Oh, look, that's
Goddamn.
messed up. He took a shot at you right now. He put you on the
Look,
spot.
Look, sir.
look, hey, I don't mind being put on the spot, baby. It don't phase me one bit. But yeah, so I know that once we do move, because it's coming up within the next 6 to 8 months. We
Right.
just I just don't feel like we can continue to have the business and grow without breeding our own
Yes.
rodents. So, um,
Yeah, that's big.
so
Breed your
we
own
need that.
rodents is big, especially how you were saying, picking up a different rodent and then it have some kind of fecal matter problem. When that happens, I mean, like it's picking up from different people. You will never really know until you stick with the same one. Once you change, that changes
Right.
everything.
Well, Darren was telling me I
Exactly.
didn't know that a lot of rodent breeders that aren't really, I guess, handling the way they should be are feeding like dog food and things that they shouldn't
Right.
be. I never knew that was a thing.
It's the thing. They cut corners any way they can. They'll save money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of feeding the right food.
Right. And it's funny because the larger the collections get, you start troubleshooting potential problems. We're looking at things now like we don't want to breed rodents to the point of feeding the whole collection, but at some point we need to revisit that because you have to take into consideration like, okay, cool, you got a consistent rodent supply who's supplying a very large area, but what happens if they pass, if they die, meaning the actual breeder themselves? Like, what do you do now? Like, if the money of purchasing every week is not the issue, what if it's you have no access? So,
right. And that's the fear. That's the fear.
Right.
I mean, you live in, for people that live in Dallas, so Dallas is a little bit unique. So Dallas you can't sell inside of city limits. You can't sell anything but a ball python. It's like you can sell crested geckos, a ball python, and a boa constrictor. So NARBC in Dallas has an issue with like all of the retics, all of the carpet pythons. So they have to negotiate that sale and go outside of city limits and then conduct that sale. So there's no like other than Petco, which I mean, if you want to pay $6 or $7 for a mouse and like $8 or $9 for a rat, I mean, but we drive all the way from basically Garland all the way to Plano to buy the 30% of our animals that eat live, and it's about $125 to $140 a week. Okay. Which like isn't a problem, but I'm always thinking that what happens the day I show up and they're like, we don't have it.
Right.
I mean, there's nowhere for me to go.
Exactly. So that's kind of the same bridge that we're kind of at this point. Even though, like we said, he's very, very dependable, and we feed all our babies kind of in-house. We have a smaller production, and we're working on kind of building more racks. But it's the same thing. You kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You got to kind of figure it out because it is a lot of time. Audra enjoys that portion of it. Her back doesn't. I keep telling her she's a little over the hill. She need a tune up.
I'm telling you.
Tires rotated. As I said, we've only been married a year, and I'm already ready to trade it in. I'm like, hey, it's time to get that new 2025.
You know what? I was just thinking. That makes me think. Justin has racks. His rodent racks are pretty high up, but I know so they can see what's going under it. But I'm like, man, this guy doesn't really have to bend down that low to get to the bottom shelf. I'm like, that's kind of like a good idea because go a little bit higher. You ain't got to bend down as low.
True.
Yep.
True.
But I like y'all's rodent setup. Y'all have the ARS caging, or did you build that?
Ours is we built it, but it's
okay.
Oh man,
it's similar. Gecko made.
Yeah, it's similar. It's just the bottom level. It's 10 across and 5 levels high, so it's 50 tubs. The first rack system we built, and the entire first level is 1/4-inch mesh. So we did mice for 10 tubs, and then the other 40 tubs we did the 10 series deep. Great design. Amazing design. Now I kind of wish I did maybe all mice. Maybe all mice for those and that was an overkill. But reason I say that is because we've been doing really like 1.2, 1.1 in those tubs. I finally bit the bullet. You know, we were set up with ARS to get the tubs because we wanted to build almost like a wooden clone of the rack system. But the tubs themselves were like close to $1,500. So just to get the tub ordered, so we're like, man, this doesn't make any sense. We can get the same amount of tub from Home Depot for $400. You know, because we're doubling up on tubs. We have a really good system where we can literally prep all our tubs to replace all our rodents and everything. They're all sitting inside each other, ready to roll. And basically pull the dirty tub out with the rodents in them, put the new tub in, move the rodents over, done. You know, and then the kids come and clean out the dirty ones, wash them and everything. Got a really good system. So we went with the cement mixing tubs, and they've been amazing. They've truly been amazing. We're getting more production out of the cement mixing tubs than we did in our initial racks. So we're kind of transitioning over to those. So even though the first rack looks amazing, I mean, it's quite flawless when you start thinking about the functionality of it. But you know, it hasn't been any failures, anything, no rats getting loose or anything. But
That's a good thing.
as far as making sense and functionality, gotta go with the cement mix and tub racks.
So are you gonna completely get rid of that rack now? Or
no,
we still
have it. We have plenty of room in because we literally don't park any of the cars in the garage. We put this huge TV up there so we can kind of watch TV while we're working out there. So now it's still there, and we'll put like we're thinking of maybe doing like maternity tubs. For like maybe we got a few rats that are extremely good moms, and we'll, you know, hey, this one didn't make it through feeding, bring some pups back. We don't have to search and see which one was nursing, just put it in with her. We're thinking about doing something like that.
It's a good idea. And what about
I've noticed the ASFs, they do better in washout tubs.
Oh, they do.
I don't know why. Yeah, and you could do more. You could do more in there. More male, more
female. You know me, I stay away from the field mice. It's just for me. It's just it's not a good business move for me.
I feed mine everything. They get all three. All three. All my keepers do. All my keepers. They get all three.
But Darren, how many colonies?
We do that too.
So I have 55 colonies of rats, and then I got 15 colonies of mice, and then 16 colonies of ASF.
And you feed your whole collection, right?
Yes, I do. Nobody can tell me nothing. It's easier because the feeling of, I know sometimes you're like, man, I gotta drive all the way over here and go pick up, and then if they have enough, they have enough. Okay, then you turn around. Okay, you're feeding after you get home. You know, so you got to have that time frame, and then sometimes these guys, you can't meet them until late if they're breeding. If it's a certain breeder, if their facility that they're breeding at, you got a time frame to pick up. You know, so I just go to the other side of the garage. I'm good. There you go. You know, it is more taking care of them. Yes, but at the same time, it's a peace of mind.
Right.
Yes, I love it and hate it at the same time. So take that. I love it to see my animals eat. It's like, doo. But I hate cleaning them. Man, that's what job it's like.
Is it double the work since you're like half of a person?
Ha. Hey, we'll think he tall. You still consider short. I'm just shorter.
So, as far as vending, when will you be vending your next show? Do you have one on the map yet, or not yet?
As far as us,
yeah,
I don't really know when. I mean, it was like the sound was breaking up a little bit, but I don't know when we're vending the next show. We're preparing for it. That's the thing that I wanted to ask you guys while we were doing the podcast. So we're right now on that pendulum to where we can determine what stage of morph market do we want to go into, or do we want to buy our basically our ARS cagings and our lights and get set up for that. So we're already because we're just on our second clutch. We've already got all of our shipping supplies and all that other stuff. So we can do that, but we sold our first clutch locally just from people that we know. And before a month was even up, we had everything we wanted sold. So because the market in Dallas just isn't saturated like that. But I wanted to know your take on vending. I know previously, Will, you said wait 5 years until you can learn a lot. But I just wanted to know at this point, would you make a change? Or Darren, would you recommend Morph Market over a show? I mean, and what are your reasons for each one?
For me, I mean, it depends on what you're selling. If you're selling more of like pet grade animals, I would do a show. If you're kind of higher end, I'd do a little bit of both, because now we have what is it? Auctions. So they can still sell on auctions.
Right. Me, I still would say Morph Market at that stage. And reason being, there's a lot of moving pieces even when doing the shows. And again, if you can do the shows, do the shows. But if you're hatching out, let's say for instance, animals that have been created before, they're not going to be your holdbacks. They're something that you're going to basically be finding a new pet home to, new owners to. If they're not game changing, again, you're going to run into that area where we were talking about a little bit before we went live, where a lot of the basic shows are going to end up being swap meets. So the only true winners now, even way back when in COVID, in the middle of COVID, is going to be the promoters, which again, is not a shot at the promoters. I mean, they should bring in revenue for what all they do. But my opinion is I would wait until you have a healthier inventory. 100, available animals before, really digging into the vending scene. And then even then you have enough inventory to do both. But having, a few clutches ready to roll, I would still go the Morph Market route, because you can still reach a wider potential customer base than even doing one show. And again, when you don't know whether the genes don't really matter, but if you have an animal set at $80 or $100 and you're willing to take, $20 less or whatever it may be, is it easier to take $20 less on Morph Market or online? Or is it easier to take $20 less at a show? You're thinking the same thing either way you go, but it's really not, because once you take a short at the show, you're still paying face value for whatever your table costs and expenses are. So
and it's the time cost too.
How many clutches do you think you're going to have this year?
Well, like from a year from now, I think we'll have at least 12 clutches, because now we ultrasound every month. And I know exactly when they get to 15 millimeters, and I just start pairing up then. So about, 12, I would say 12 clutches.
Okay.
So 12,
so this year,
12 times 6, about 72.
Yeah. So you're only going to have 2 clutches this year, right? Or maybe a little bit more.
Actually, we got another one in the incubator. So we should have, just this year, like in the 2024 calendar year, we'll have 7 to 8.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
and then I think Morph Market puts the most parameters around ball pythons as well, because I think when we first started, there was more of a leeway posting more and more geckos numbers wise than ball pythons. There always was a little bit more, restrictions put around a ball python. So you probably have to get a tier or two above like the basic, but I think it'll still do very well.
Yeah. I mean, if we bought in, it would be at the premium level. So I don't want anything that would hold us back on the number of pictures, because for one, I think that if I take, so a lot of times people have one picture and that's fine, but we take so many pictures of our snakes all the time. And that's one of the things that I used to ask for. Now I don't ask for any pictures whatsoever. I really don't ask for a lot anyway, because I feel like I know enough about them. But as someone that's looking on Morph Market, the more pictures are better. So I think at the premium level, then I'd get to, show a lot more pictures and put more information there. But I don't know how that would pay out or play out.
Well, maybe it might stop people asking questions for more pictures.
Right.
There's enough pictures there, so they won't ask. It's already there.
And I think
this is the thought.
That's one thing, though. I think if it's something that interests you, there's definitely going to be other people interested in the same thing. That's another thing we preach about, whether it's a morph or a direction you're going. People worried about is it hot? Is it a hot gene or whatever you're working? There's going to be a lane once you create it for you, and that's the same thing with pictures. I think that's probably somewhere we're dropping the ball as well. Typically, we're posting 2 pictures per animal. We probably can definitely up that because we have the premium as well, but that's definitely something I didn't really think about because when we're taking pictures, they are not the most cooperative.
Right. So I came up with all of this from watching, of course, social media, but before doing the survey stuff, I was in the pharmaceutical industry as a salesman. COVID came and wiped everything out. So it's easier to make money with something that you can have that's grounded, right? I think we all know that. But from a sales experience, I'm always looking at, a SWOT analysis. So what's the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats of what anyone is doing compared to you? And what I found is that, like, if we do shows like a Repticon or even NARBC, there are snakes that breeders want that breeders buy. So we're charging more for those animals because we know what we're doing. But the majority of people that are coming through the door are not breeders. But what do they like? And I did a demographic study. I went to 4 different shows here. I went to Reptilian, Lone Star, NARBC, and Repticon here in Dallas. And I just would ask people, well, what's your favorite type of snake? Blue-eyed leucistic, albino, like the lavender albino and albino, they don't know the difference. They like those 2 snakes. They like piebald. So if you didn't have anything else but, pies, those lavender albinos, or,
what's crazy,
and
when they say they see a clown, some of them don't like the clown. They're like, I like that one better. And it's not the clown. And you're like, man, clown, really? Yeah. But because we're so used to it and we're in the industry, the pet trade is totally different. But the pies are becoming pretty big and popular between them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, pies, I see pies flying off of people because, we've only vended 1 show. So every other show I'm going to, I'm doing just like what you do, meet and greet, developing connections. And what I'm seeing is I'm like, hey, I always ask the question, so what are you moving? Because I see some stuff that's sold, and I ask them, what are you moving? And they always say, blue-eyed leucisticus. Any type of pod, whether it's a dreamsicle or a normal pod or a banana pod, those things move. Like ultra males move. Anything that looks like a wow factor to where, what I say, this TikTok generation seems like everybody's part of it, right? They want something that's going to pop out that they can put on social media and people say, man, that's an incredible snake.
Right.
So demographically, like I was watching a show this morning on YouTube, and it was with Canova, and they were talking about the pixel gene, right? So I'm looking at the pixel gene and I'm thinking, all right, so if I were to take that to my cousin who's not into snakes, what would he say? He would say, well, I don't really like it. Now, the one snake that he did like that when he saw it was the monsoon. He thought that was incredible. He said, man, whatever kind of snake that is, that's the one you should be getting. I said, well, give me 10,000, bro. And then I jump right on it.
Tell him I can make something real close to that. I'll just do the combo with the pinstripe and then put it together, and then it look like a monsoon, poor man's monsoon. There you go. And I sell it for a cheaper price because you like this one.
Oh gosh.
Exactly. I mean, give me some of your kids' college fund, I'll give you a monsoon. I ain't tripping. I mean, I'm not tripping. So, but that brings up a thing like cost. So the one thing that I'm always listening for is how much people have invested in. I don't think a lot of people recognize the amount that people are investing into their business or their hobby. Now, it depends on how you approach it. Is it a business or a hobby? It all depends on how you approach it. But the amount of money that people are putting into their projects, like we've invested 50 grand into what we have right now. That's equipment and everything. That's why we don't have racks in the back. I'm like, when we moved and we're getting racks, we're getting some other things that'll just make it easier because now I see the benefit. Before I didn't see the benefit, but the amount of money that people are investing it's a nice piece of change. I wouldn't even call it change. It's a lot of dollars. So You have to try to make it work, man.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm watching. I'm always watching y'all, and I'm like looking like what they doing with this,
Well,
Trying
I
to
mean,
make
look,
it.
so you have those guys that are a low end hobby where it's like, okay, I'm gonna spend X amount of dollars, but I'm gonna try to make this. Then you have those people that are like, it's an expensive hobby. I don't know
Right.
if I really want to make this into a business yet, but it's just taking all my money because I like it so much. Then you have those that come to the stage of, okay, this is gonna be a business for me. I'm gonna really do this because I like it. I've been in it for a while, or I kind of know what I doing. I kind of see what avenue I'm gonna take
Right.
and go that route.
Yeah, it's hard to really etch it out unless you're kind of stubborn and and gonna stick to your guns and stick to your old ways.
I'm stubborn.
Man, me too. But actually, Darren seen this all kind of happen and unrolling from the very beginning. I used to be talking to him from the police car, trying to tell him different moves we were doing
yeah.
before I left that. And it's been quite the journey so far. We have a crap ton of money invested, but short term turnaround. We never really looked at it and expected huge numbers. We even in our plan, we were like, okay, if we can do 50 grand a year, we're in this for the long haul. 10 years, we'll be somewhere close, somewhere close. And year one revenue was really, really eye opening. So we did 77 grand year one, and that's literally just moving out everything that wasn't our holdbacks. We probably had anywhere from 8 to 10 animals that were still left from that year, but we hatched out, it was like 250 and 40 were holdbacks. Now we really don't have any animals from year one, and we've already been selling animals from this year, straight out the egg from videos on YouTube, which was another stream of income that we never expected. Never expected. So we're anxious, and we want to see what's going to happen with this year and it being in kind of downturn slump, whatever we're going through with the correction and everything. But we have high hopes because a lot of our projects, I think we're pushing forward hard enough on them where we can kind of keep stepping forward. We may not be running forward, but as long as we're moving forward, it's a good direction. You got to kind of really try to avoid staying stagnant. Staying still it is considered moving backwards.
It is because everybody else
is. Yep, it really is. So if we can keep, obviously with whatever increased cost of living and all these things, adjustments that we make, just keep reinvesting and still eating away at that red to try to get into the black, we'll be there before we know it at this point. Even if we can replicate year 1, 2, and 3 and 4 years in a row, it'll be a success because we weren't expecting to make year 1 type of return for at least 3 years. So that's definitely a come up. But I think it's definitely a area you can kind of get into, even getting into the game now, because I think that's overwhelming for a lot of people too. They're like, oh, everybody's ahead of me. Don't matter. It don't matter. You gotta find your own way.
That's why you have to kind of find your own avenue of like what route you want to take, any kind of combo, and just make it into your own. That way it's not duplicated as fast, which eventually it's going to be duplicated, but it's just how fast it's going to be duplicated.
So Darren, how long have you been in the market? I mean, in breeding? I know it's been a while, but how long?
Yeah, I started picking up in 2011 and then had my first clutch in 2014. So I bought babies because nidovirus was big. When I got into it, everybody said, don't buy adults. They might have this, they might be selling you something with a problem. So they pumped that fear factor into my mind, which I ate it up. I'll tell you right now, I ate it up. So I started buying babies. And it was kind of like, is this what I really want to do? I'm just going to start slowly. And I started slowly. So, but it took a few years to get my first clutch. But I didn't use an ultrasound. Nobody was pushing that because ultrasounds weren't the price they are now. And you were buying medical grade ultrasounds at that time. That was like it. Nobody had the smaller ones
Man,
that look like a little laptop now.
it's still expensive. Like if
Oh
you get
yeah.
a medical grade one, like the one I got a cousin that's a vet tech, man, you're looking at $5 grand, $6 grand. So I was like, ain't no way. Ain't no way.
Ain't no way.
That will stay right there.
Yeah.
So Darren, did you
Yeah, it can
feel
stay in the
like
box wherever you got it.
people were or breeders were being misleading when they told you
You
certain
know
breeds?
what? 100%. They're being misleading. They're breeding these things at a young age. They're telling you to wait a little bit longer, wait a little bit until they reach this age or this size, and they're breeding these things at before 2 years at 1,000 grams. Guarantee they're doing it. So I think it was kind of misleading. Now, picking up certain things, it was just all about incomplete dominance. Now, gene wise, that was just a little bit different. People were feeling the value was high when you had 3 to 5 genes into these animals versus, being that it's recessive or double recessive. It was kind of just a different market,
Right.
But people were mad and feeling like, oh, ball pythons are dropping because you were coming into that point where I'm getting 3-4 genes and I'm only paying $200, where people were getting 1,000 to 1,500, maybe even $2,000 for those 3, 4, 5 genes in the animal.
Wow. And now here
Yeah,
we
it's
are.
definitely different. I mean, like we in particular, at first we were thinking about dogs, but there's some city ordinances. It's hard to breed dogs in Dallas, right? But so when I was looking at this market after we got our initial pets, and I thought, well, even before then, I was thinking, well, the ball pythons are selling for way too much. I think they're riding the COVID high or during that time. I said, this has to come down. So a lot of people are paying exorbitant prices for animals, and I just took a risk like you would in a stock market or when you work your 401k. I took that risk and thought, well, I'll wait, and sure enough, the prices came down. As it came down, I've been able to get animals that fit what we want to do a lot less than what I would have paid 2 years earlier, which
Right.
is it's a risk, because it could have easily went the other way, but for this situation, it actually worked out.
Absolutely. Gee.
I'll tell you, when I got in, bananas were 35 grand, I think, for a banana.
Gosh.
Think about that.
Just
them suckers
That's a lot.
plummet.
Wow. Single banana, 35,000.
Yeah, that's almost equivalent to basically the stranger. The stranger was at that high price. It was the banana that was at the high price at that time, and I've watched it where I was able to pick up my first banana for $1,500, and I thought I got a steal at that time. It was a deal.
Shoot. So when you guys do finalize everything as far as wanting to get into a house, are you guys going to stay in the Dallas area?
Probably so. We might do shows in other places, but as far as staying in the Dallas area, this is where the bulk of my family is. Lynn's family's from Indiana, so they don't really come to visit as often, and we can go and visit them. So yeah.
Awesome. Not bad.
The market over there is pretty high too, isn't it? Or going up? And within the housing market?
I couldn't hear you.
I said the housing market is going up pretty high over there too, huh?
Dallas, I'm sure.
Yeah, Dallas is crazy because it's stuck in Texas is a state that doesn't have a state tax. So you got people from the East Coast and people from the West Coast. Like my future brother-in-law moved from San Diego to where he couldn't buy, like I'm talking $700,000. You're looking at a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, like small too. I'm talking like 1,100 square feet. Whereas he moved here to Houston and was able to get a very large, substantial house. So because of that, the housing prices went up, but they're starting to come down a little. I'm just waiting on my cousin, who's a real estate agent, to let me know. So we'll see. It's going to happen. So either way, whether we get a good interest rate or not, it's got to happen.
Interest rates is huge, and like you said, when we figure out the presidency thing and the election, we hopefully set everybody in the right direction.
Let's see if they have they drop the interest rate pretty soon here. We'll see. I hear about it because I'm in the housing market, so I do construction, so we kind of hear everything going on and kind of listen to it, and so that also determines how many houses we're going to build too, moving forward.
Yeah,
I know in California right now, you got people building single-family homes, and they're going straight for rent. Not that you could buy them; they're going for rent. So think about that. These companies are coming in and they're building in these areas and they're renting these homes out. So it's soon enough, it's going to hit everybody else too, where you're not buying a house, you're renting that house, and that's it.
So it's a different approach.
You cannot purchase the house. Yeah.
Well, we had that same conversation, pretty much with the kids, trying to point them in the right direction, telling, everything that we were being told way back when to, focus and do everything you want to do as a kid because adulting sucks. So we've been telling them the same thing. And we're like, man, but now, being honest with you, I don't know how our kids' generation is really going to be able to buy a house, and with these crazy numbers and everything that's out there, like I just don't see how they can even comfortably move out, on their own. And I mean, what kid 21, 22 years old can go out there and afford, $2,000-$3,000 a month, and some of these places are charging that for rent.
The only thing you can do is be smart. I'm gonna get a bunch of roommates. I'm gonna see if I can qualify for this house, and then everybody in the roommate.
Yeah, but that might not work out either. It only takes one bad roommate.
I don't know. It'll ruin it for everybody, right?
Yeah, it'll ruin it for everybody. It just depends on how bad he really is. He might be a funky smell in the attic.
And might not have any money when it comes down to it. That makes you. It depends on whose name is on the lease or the mortgage. It's
right.
It's a hard one to call, but I think interest rates won't ever be down to 2%. I think I got a family member who refinanced his house, which was an incredible deal for 2%. 2%.
Yep, that's not going to happen
he
again.
He got a free house, man. That's what I say. Yeah, it's never going to happen again. So he never wants to move.
He never wants to move. Yeah.
Why? Think about it. He cannot even refinance it. And if you turn around and refinance and try to take some money, he just made his interest rate go up. There's no point.
Mm-hmm.
No point at all. You might as well just stick with it and get a personal loan.
So
that's what he told his wife. He said, "We can never even get escrow out of this house." It's like we
at all. You just stuck. So right
but
now,
2%.
In your setup, what would you consider the ceiling for your keeping numbers wise?
What do you mean, like as far as clutches or
as far as your breeders, grow outs, currently right now, males and females?
Well, so currently we have 10 breeder males, and we have it looks like 36 breeder females. So in the beginning, I got advice, kind of like and that's what I like y'all's channels for too. It's all social media channels. People saying to me, as a brand new re-entrant to the snake hobby, and I acted like I didn't know anything, right? I would go and I would say, well, what should I get? They would say, well, get your females as hatchlings and grow them out. And so it didn't take long for me to just say, that does not sound like a great business plan for me. So what I did is, because I just don't want to wait the 2 to 3 years for that female to get to age. So now what I do, and I'm hard on it, is I will get as close to an adult. So a 900-gram female is pretty much the minimum, or a fully grown adult female. And that way I have a year to get her acclimated, right? So whether she goes or not, I won't have to worry about her being up to size, and I can see what her feeding patterns are, and I just kind of make a science project out of it. But the males, now I always buy my males as hatchlings if I can. But if it's a good deal, then I'll get a sub-adult male or an adult male. But I don't mind getting a powerhouse male as a hatchling and then growing them up, because I'm looking at a year to 18 months. And then he's ready to go, if not before then. So I think that's changed our perspective. And then getting the ultrasound and so we haven't reassessed that in our business plan, but we have reassessed like 3-4 generations down the line what we're going to do with each possibility that we produce. Like as far as holdbacks, because it might not be the powerhouse of the clutch, like say the Batman, like in this last one, that was our last clutch. But our first one we made, Phantom Huffman Head Clown. So we kept 2 of those Phantom Huffman Head Clown females because I'd never seen them before. And at the worst scenario, if we do a Repticon show, we can produce a blue-eyed Lucy from that. But that'll also let us push that project ahead because not that many people are working with that combination anymore. In fact, when I got the Huffman female from Dave with Custom Scales, he said, he asked, what are you going to do? And when I told him, he was like, let me know when you get to that third generation what it looks like. Now, he's selling them, so he's probably doing it already, but he probably wants to see someone else's spin on it. So I got to reassess our ceiling for what we're doing. But now that we ultrasound routinely, it's making it a whole lot easier because I can't palpate either because I don't know, I just can't.
But you have an ultrasound, so this is what I was gonna say. Now you kept something from that in the females, right? Pay attention to the follicle growth on those females. Those females will grow follicles after a year. You're coming into almost that 2-year mark. Watch those females follicle growth, and that determines on if you should breed that female or not. Because believe me, you're coming into that 2nd year. Them females eating great, their follicles are going to grow. You can breed them.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've seen and a lot so it stacks, right? It staggers. So when we're charting them out, some of them are at 5 millimeters, at 10. Now, when they get to 15, 18 millimeters, then I'm like, all right, they're ready to be paired because that lets me know that they're mature enough too. Even if it's a small one, that might just be a short ball python. Then they could be at 15 millimeters. Then that's a sexually mature ball python. But now, if we have some that are bigger, that are 1200, and they're still sitting at 4 millimeters. So I can't pair them because they're not sexually mature enough to make that follicle growth go all the way through the end to produce a clutch or an egg.
Definitely.
But I do like the ultrasound. I do like it. Now the technique that I use is just laying them across my leg and doing it. I think I got it from what's his name in Canada? I forgot. With Billy. Yeah, I got it from. Yeah, I mean he's so crazy that I just got it from him. I was like, laying it across the leg, so I leave my work jeans on, and I just come, I lay them across, I get the gel all over me, then I'm like, but it works.
It works. Yeah. Hey, that's what as long as it works.
Your own technique is your own technique. That's why I always said there's no right or wrong way of doing it. I mean, it's what works for you. What works for you is the route that you should go.
Exactly.
So let's see, one more question.
Well, I got a question for you. Unless you're looking at someone's question. So with the way that these recessives are going, I mean, because I'm still, even though I pay attention to the industry, I step away sometimes just to get a, unbiased view. But so with all the recessives, so we make a quad recessive, we make a penta recessive, we make a hexa, a hepta, a octa recessive. How far do y'all think that'll go before people just stop caring about making a recessive and just making a beautiful snake again, whether it's recessive or not?
I think we're still in that beautiful snake, but with the double recessive is now our base. That's our new base, and we might as well just run with it. That's going to be almost that pet quality animal being double recessive. Now,
with no codons.
Yes. Now we're getting to the point where everybody's adding more codons into it. So I don't think it's going to run away because getting to those, what are you saying, quad?
Yeah,
how hard is that to hit? How hard is that to hit? By the time we hit it, it's still going to have value to it, you know, because there's not going to be that many hitting it. Now, what those people that are hitting those quads, once they add incomplete dominance into it, also, okay, now we're at another step. So it's going to take us some time, you know, to really actually hit that, because once you have a quad recessive, then you're adding 4 incomplete dominance into it or 5 incomplete dominance. That's going to take even more time. By the time you get one gene into it, how many years is that?
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
Yeah, at least 2 to 4, depending on if it's a male or female that you're working. Yeah.
Yep. I think it also gives you a little false sense of security too when hitting some of them. Like when you hit if you're doing the quad hat, and you actually hit the quad visual. I mean, that's like go buy a lottery ticket, you know.
For real.
But it also makes you think, oh, I can hit this again. I can do, you probably won't, you know. So it's like,
but what it does make it easier is once you go quad recessive, or or if you have two recessives that are visual on that side, and then two recessives that where you got the double visual, and then you have two recessive genes, het genes in there. Once you get to that point, to hit the doubles are going to be easier. So you got 4 recessives, right? 2 are visuals, 2 are hets. You're going to hit combos in between where you have double visuals of the opposite side.
Right, or triples or something. Yeah.
Yep. So it makes it easier to hit the visuals, the multi-visuals underneath whatever that quad is. So you get the doubles.
Where it's harder to hit the quad, but it's easier to hit the double.
Yep.
Right. And so that's one of the things that we're focusing on is producing those quad, those quad hit animals, just the hits, and then trying to run the gamut on that. And I would really like for most of those to be females, so that when we pair that male to it, hopefully we can get visual males or buy a visual male. And that would increase our odds to 50% per egg. And the offshoots would be, at least 100% hit for that. And then we can move forward from there. But I don't know. I was just trying to see because, it's just one of those things when you go into that area, no one else has been there before. And I think that's what ball python breeders don't get credit for that a lot, is pushing the boundaries of their base animals to produce animals, whether they look the same or not to the naked eye. People that know, they can recognize it easily.
Yeah, and like Darren was saying, even like the clown pods or even the dream sickles where prices have, dropped. That's fine. But guess what? Now those animals are going to be a good base for whatever combos and things that you're putting in there. So instead of you having, a pod female, which is nothing wrong with having a pod female or having a lavender female, a lot of people are stepping up that basement of their collection to it being a dream sickle female that's there ready. Because a lot of the bigger breeders, the more mainstream breeders, that's the part that, that it's not really a secret. It's just, I think we overlook it. They get that new gene, whatever it may be. They can take a gene that's been around forever and put it in their collection. And they got 5 or 6, $10,000 ready to breed females just sitting there in the tubs, ready to rock and roll. And it's because they've done this long enough, and I mean, respect to them. They've been doing it for decades. So they deserve to be where they are, but that's the name of the game. They have these breeder females and breeder males all ready to rock and roll.
What kind of helps a lot too is that everybody's putting content out there to help you move forward.
Yes.
When I got into it, nobody was trying to tell you nothing. They're trying to keep it secret because guess what? You're competition. In the long run, you're going to be competition. You may not be competition right now, but you're going to be competition later on. And if you know any of these secrets, that's too much for them. Now we're like, okay, we're gonna talk about our journey, what we've been through, and it helps a lot. And it's gonna push us even further than just everybody's keeping it secrets for everything.
And is it truly competition? It ain't really truly we're getting in this like uncharted territory, like you said, with all these recessives. And what are the chances you having, these two snakes and putting it together and somebody else doing the same exact thing and everybody hitting 1 in 864 odd? It's just not happening.
If they know too, it's not competition because guess what? They're light years ahead of you. You're baby stepping into this. By the time you even try to get to where they're at, you either gonna have to pay for it or turn around, start with your hets and work your way up. That's 4 years, guaranteed 4 years ahead of you automatically.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's just the nature of business. I think, it's I think that's what makes it fun, especially now because the information's out there, but really only 20% of all people are going to even try to reach whatever you're talking about anyway. The other 80%, they're going to be satisfied with their collection because one of the knocks that I have on the shows, because I try to weigh it out rationally, is most of the people, once they get their collection and they say that I don't want to reinvest, they don't reinvest. So they continue to reproduce those same animals. Now, it's only the ones that are innovative that push the boundaries, and they're the ones that they may not sell more snakes, but you can see what they're doing. You can see that they're selling
Correct.
it. So it might be a matter of they might need to tweak their marketing or, find a different platform to put their animals on it. And a lot of them don't even do social media at all. I
Right.
mean, they don't do social media. And I'm thinking, well, if you don't do social media and you only do this show, whenever I go across the page in Morph Market, and I've never seen you before, it's harder. It's harder for me to stop
Mhm.
because there's 40 or 50 other people that I am familiar with that are on social media. And, it's crazy. It's
Networking.
crazy.
Like Charlie, he sponsors the channel as well. And I've
Mhm.
met up with him at Tinley. We've talked, we've had conversation. He's still in, out my prior career, and he's an awesome guy. He put a name to the brand, and shoot, he's bought snakes from us. We bought snakes from him. He's on the whole shedtesting.com, and he's an awesome person. And it's like we wouldn't know any of that if we at least put ourselves out there,
Right.
and be open and receptive to kind of just trying to meet, and learn new people, and new business, and new avenue. But him specifically being as big as he is, he's very personable. He's been on
Yeah.
our live. You can kind of shoot the crap with him whenever. He's answering messages all times of night, in the morning, whatever his shifts are, and he's very down to earth. So,
Right.
I mean, I couldn't recommend a better person when it comes to shed testing than Charlie. But again, that doesn't come from just existing. You got to kind of get out there and at least try to network with people.
Right. Right. And that's our whole goal in going to the Daytona show is just to meet different people, man. I want
Yeah,
I want a different perspective on this business, whether it's good or bad. I don't care. I
right.
just want the
Yeah.
perspective of each individual person. So that's what I do on the Friday. I go through people need help setting up. Hey, I'll help you set up. Try to arrange for a dinner or whatever. It's just trying to
Right.
get to know more people in the business. But like when I found out, because I've never met Charlie, but when I've heard people talk about him and like how he's doing the stuff on his own, and that's
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy that he has a full-time job, a
Yeah.
family, and he's doing all of this on his own.
Shed,
That's really
shed testing.
For
Shed
real.
and,
testing.
and I mean, you know how we are when we send our sheds in. We want
Yeah.
them. I mean, as soon as
Oh
we send them
yeah.
the next day, hey,
Oh
give it
yeah.
to me now. And so, you know,
That shed testing is so powerful. It's saving you so much time
Yeah.
of any guessing.
right,
It's turning your recesses into incomplete dominant. So I'm gonna keep
Basically,
this,
yeah.
I'm gonna keep that, and I'm gonna let that go. It saves a lot of time.
Which also,
yeah,
what that does too, it allows you to keep a smaller collection as well.
Mhm.
At the same
exactly,
time. You don't have to keep, back in the day, I'm sure I've heard the stories, you hatch out these clutches where you got pos heads. You're like,
Yep.
all right, I'm keeping every single female. I'm keeping one or two of the males, and I'm gonna roll the dice when 3-4 years when they're ready to go.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh well.
Now,
I mean, think about that. That's where I'm gonna notice markers, pet markers. That's where that
yeah,
came from. It's
yeah,
because it's a hope and a wish and a dream, and then now I'm gonna share that with everybody else.
and that's
This
the
is what I
thing.
have. This is. I mean, I can tell you more. Like it's in my head because it's believing that. Which
Right.
some of it is
So
true.
I know,
Some of it's
I
like
know it's some validity to that. I'm just
he's a
not
believer.
hundred
He's a
percent
believer.
sold
He's a believer.
on
yeah.
it
Don't
I
listen to
mean,
him.
because
He's a believer.
I feel
I
like
believe,
it
I
gave people
believe,
something to talk about until it was time to say,
It,
"Oh man, they improved. Oh man, they improved." But we could talk about
it
this for the next 2
improves
years.
the pie markers. Man, that is proven for me. But I'll tell you, I had one female I bred myself, right? I
Right.
produced this female. My female never had another clutch. Now, I don't think she's part though, because she still lived long enough. But I bred her twice, and I still haven't got a pie from her. And I bred her to a visual pie twice this year. I'm like, how did I not get any pies? It's so
right,
mind blowing. Twice visual
Weird.
pies I bred her to, and I didn't get them. I'm kind of upset. I told Will, I was like, man, this is my second time this year, this season, or from last season, and I didn't get anything, any visual pie. So
it's
once I
crazy.
produce a female, I can't. I can't be mad. I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, like with the shed testing, the one thing that I do see as a time saver is that if you're going to take a chance on a 50%, I mean, for one, you're going to get it for less money out of pocket. I mean, it's always that
Yep.
portion. But then once you get it into your own, then if you shed test it, you're kind of rolling the dice and hoping that you get it. So the animals that we did that with, there's the other traits that are known. I make sure that I really like those genes. And then at that point, it's just an added bonus. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, we have bought
So,
like 50% toss head. I'm like, man, every time I would rather do a 100% head or a 66% versus a 50. But if the price is right, the 50%, that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. I
And
mean,
that's
especially if it's a project that's far down the line.
Will just won. He won on a mail that he got from Ozzy. That it was 66% head, right?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
Yeah,
that.
it was 66. And it ends up being
66%.
super orange dream. He sold as orange dream, super inchy, but orange dream, but it's actually super orange dream. Everything coming out orange dream. So it's we got blessed on that.
I
it still
remember
hurt.
seeing that. I was like,
It
yeah,
still hurt.
I know who you got it from. And, I get the emails too. So,
Oh,
when I saw you had it, I was like, whoa.
Ooh.
Whoa, he spent player money.
Oh God,
Yeah.
He tried to be a real player in the game.
Rims and tires for that,
Yeah, I was sitting there when I said, "Yeah, we're gonna be eating ramen noodles for at least 2 months."
Hey, man.
That's a car.
Sometimes it's like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a small
He
car.
spent a car.
man.
But and that's what we're shooting for, is to get to that level to where we can leapfrog our projects ahead with additions like that. And so right now we're just trying to get a stable base. And that's the one thing that I've learned from experienced breeders and mid-level breeders, and then like newer. Everybody is more experienced than us, except for the people at our level, and even some of them are. But I've learned that getting your base going correctly is what you want. So, and I got my notepad here, and I'm writing down notes as we go too. So,
it's the projects you're chasing.
And operating the same operating costs, whatever it is, week to week, it adds up over the year. Everything, your time that you're putting in, you don't necessarily have to pay yourself for the time you're putting in. Genuinely speaking, you can use that as your enjoyment time. And you don't necessarily have to be, compensated for that at that moment, because it can pay off in the end. But operation costs week to week is a big one. I think for people that's kind of pushing they're kind of strapped maybe, and they're kind of pushing the limitations of their cash flow. I find that a lot of those breeders tend to get in trouble a lot faster.
I do too.
Yeah, and then it forces them to kind of get really upside down and kind of jump ship and sell half of this and that, and end up getting in a lot of trouble. And then they lose the excitement for it, and then next they're out of it.
It's because they come into that mindset of panic.
Yeah.
Right. I run into a lot of people like that got in when we did at the beginning of 2023, and they were like, oh my God, I spent this much money. I was like, well, yeah, you're going to spend money on any hobby. I love golf. So golf is a hobby that you spend money on. Yeah, or any, like if cars, like if you choose, you got to pick and choose what you do. But the number one thing I tell them is like, make sure that your money that you're spending on these snakes isn't any of your bill money, any of your savings money. Make sure that it's like pure enjoyment. Maybe it's some spillover. But some people, I see them, they just go for broke. And I'm like, bro, this isn't a get rich quick scheme. I mean, this is more like,
Golf. I mean, hey, you coming from golf. Golf is a money pit itself.
It's a money
because
pit.
you were never going to get the value out of them golf clubs when you bought them.
Never. But luckily for me, my clubs are over like 13 years old. The only thing I get
is
wow. That's it. Like, I don't find any more technology in the clubs now because I'm getting older. I can't hit the ball any better. You know what I'm saying? So I just use them same old X-Forge Callaways, the same old TaylorMade driver. Yeah. When I bought them, they were brand new and it hurt. But I said, I'll never hurt like that again.
Oh, wow.
They're 13 years old. They still work, so.
We got a lot of golfers that work with us, and we see some new golf clubs come in. I'm like, boy, how much you spend on those? I'm like,
I
dang.
always say sucker.
Hey, I just used the special the Top Golf gloves. That's all the
Yeah.
golf I'm doing. Top
Hey,
Golf.
He's like,
those
one
are good
club. That's
clubs.
all I need.
Yeah,
There you
one
go.
club. We just
Yeah,
trying to hit this ball as far as we can.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Yep. See how far I can go.
But see, y'all live in states where it's a nice climate. Like it's hot in Texas. And I went to the
Yeah.
driving range today, and I was only out there for I guess an hour. I mean, I was soaking wet, like
Really?
just out there an hour, and I was like, man. So I did that
The
before the
humidity's
podcast, and I
crazy,
came
huh?
back. The humidity's crazy and the heat. Like all last week were over 100 degrees. Not Arizona hot, but it's still hot.
I'm about to say,
And
yeah, Arizona had a different type of hot. They be hitting
yeah, that's
Yeah.
120. I'm like, good.
But
it's
Sacramento,
did not go outside.
Sacramento's
Yeah,
getting real close. We had a day that was 116. I said
yeah.
it was the day we decided to go to Costco, and I was like, why did we choose this day?
Yeah, you know, you come out of Costco, you get back to your car, it's no shade. Your car is
Yeah.
on fire.
By the time you even walk into the parking lot, you get in this car. Why is it so hot in this car? Like what?
It's ice cream melting. Wait.
Yeah.
Like my dad say, yeah. What they get from there? The fish and anything cold you get, and it's already starting to thaw out by the time you get to the house. Before you even
Oh,
get
yeah,
down the
that ain't
street, it's
never
already
good.
thawing.
Yeah.
That ain't never
It's
good.
crazy.
Land on that. Well, we've been running almost 2 hours. We're going to start wrapping this one up this week. We're going to have you back on because there's a few more things I actually want to wait to talk about and kind of pregame a little bit because I want to see the turnout of your entire season and see what
Okay.
you produce. Take a look at some of your holdbacks, and if you're willing to mention some of the direction you want to go with them, an entire show pretty much on it. So definitely
Okay.
wait a couple months and bring you back on and see where we're at, see what other
Yeah, sure.
changes we made in the standards and infrastructure. But
Yeah.
definitely had a blast
Me too.
talking snakes. Definitely gonna have a,
Snake.
another get back show.
I never imagined that the community would be like it is now because before, I mean, it was like in the mid '90s when I first like like you would meet, you didn't know who you were going to meet. It could be somebody with gauges in there, tattooed all out the
Right.
game, just really like on a different level. And then who you are coming out of college, you know, and just like one, you know, back then Abercrombie or whatever, you know, polo shirt, and saying, "Hey, I want a snake," and they're looking at you with the same type of excitement that they should back then. Like it was all
Right.
about, I respect the fact that you like snakes and tell me, and it was 100% attention. You know, and I'm glad to see that the community is coming back and the way it is now, you know, because I
Because
was
it
really
was so
scared for a while.
taboo. It was so taboo that if you like the same thing I like, you like reptiles. It's like, oh,
You bring you
you
together.
like them too?
But it's still, you know,
Yeah.
you got
So
some
then
good videos out
they
like
would
that.
ask you, you got tattoos?
Learn breeders. Yeah. You're all tattooed up. The
Oh
same
yeah.
thing.
Now it's funny because the tattoos now went from having you on your arm, maybe shoulders, coming onto your neck. We're like, you got a face tattoo? I wouldn't do that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Yeah. It's like I
is it?
got tattoos, but I don't have any face tattoos. I say the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
what made you get the
But
face tattoo? And they say, well, you got tattoos. I'm like, yeah, you're right. My bad.
yeah. I do, but dang, I ain't putting it on my face.
You're right.
That tells you were old. You were old
Oh,
now.
man.
The young
I
guys,
am
you know,
old. I'm old,
Yeah.
and I'm
you're old
constantly
now,
reminded
right?
by the younger people in our family. You know, I'm always being told, "Well, you know, you're of a certain age." I'm like, "Yeah, I understand that. I'm closer to my parents as friends than I am as their child back
Son,
in the day." I said, "You know,
Oh, man.
it's funny because my grandpa's like, you got to put it on your arm. You'll never get a job. You want to be a cop or you want to do this, you'll never get a job.
yeah,
Man, we're past that. Them getting on
Man,
the
yeah, I
hands,
gotta say, I went through that
everything.
whole phase myself.
You get pulled over by a cop. He's so sleeved up, got it up the side of his neck and
yeah,
everything else. Like
This
what?
new
yeah."
I
generation.
remember when it was couldn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, none of
When
them. But now it's like almost all the policemen that I
yeah,
see, they have
when
some kind of
I first
tattoos.
came on, I had to wear sleeves. I had to wear
Yeah,
sleeves. First came on. It was 10. Well, now it's 12 years ago. You had to wear sleeves to cover them up.
Nice change.
Which is the weirdest thing because I work third shift, so I'm like, it's already night.
They can't swim anyway.
Yeah, what's the point?
Like, look at my skin tone.
Yeah, exactly.
You're that close to me, you're too close. Get back.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely appreciate having you on, man. We're gonna all get done and go get some grub now. But we definitely gonna have you on for another session.
For sure. And I'll see you next week anyway.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Darren, you coming to Daytona this time around or not this time?
Nope, I might hit up Chinley instead.
Okay.
Chinley, yep.
All right. And we'll have the show back up and running in 2 weeks. Who we have on in 2 weeks? Darren, you remember?
Windy City.
Windy City. Okay. Oh, that's gonna be a good one too. So definitely tap in with Juan. We'll be rocking and rolling.
He has some fire that he's been producing lately.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to talk to him about it. I'm excited about it.
He's my fellow Krypton, Cryptic.
Oh yeah, Eugene Cryptic.
Yeah, I like Cryptic too.
I'm outnumbered on this. Y'all
it's different, man. Hey, it's different. It completely changes the outlook of the snake. Like from a visual representation, it's like, I don't know. It's just different. It's a nice addition that you got to work to get it.
We here. I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I know how you feel. That's my gene.
Oh my God. But I appreciate it.
It's already in his collection. It's in his collection.
No, don't jinx me like that. That's messed up. Don't do it. No quick times for me. We go get some grub. Y'all enjoy y'all Sunday.
All right.
See y'all later.
All right.